It sounds like he want to do one with 50 Cent. That's what it sounds like. It sounds like Jim.
Nah, I don't want to do nothing with that sucker. You heard? Leave him out of the conversation.
How can someone who talks about assaulting one of the most notorious rappers alive get their voice on a government wiretap and escape punishment? Okay. Jim Jones has been plagued by that question for years. And whenever it appears to wane, someone immediately brings it back into the forefront. The trial of 68,669 came first, followed by Wack 100. And now 50 Cent has made a comeback to stir things up with fresh receipts. However, is there any concrete evidence to support these claims? Or are the greatest trolls in hip-hop once again utilizing the court of public opinion as a weapon? Let's dissect this topic in detail. Spy?
He was your man, like on the side, like on the side, just he was not a rapper at all. Right. So when
Tekashi 66,699 was one of the most popular rappers in the world in 2018. He was boisterous and careless and possessed a recipe for viral success that no one else could match. In a dim alley, a record 6,699 shone out like a neon beacon, thanks to its violent New York drill-inspired style, facial tattoos, and rainbow hair. However, it wasn't the music that made him genuinely deadly. It was his connections to Bloods, a 9-tray mobster. The cooperation was successful for a while. 6,699 provided the gang with funding and widespread recognition. The gang provided credibility and safety to 6,699. However, it all fell apart as quickly as it had risen. The federal government intervened in one of the largest racketeering cases hip-hop has ever witnessed in late 2018. Almost every member of the 9E hierarchy was charged with violent offenses, drug use, and possession of firearms. The most flamboyant celebrity in the business was now facing decades in prison. The wiretaps followed. Prosecutors played recordings of Jim Jones purportedly conversing with Mel Murder, a senior 9E member, during the trial. Tekashi's treachery appeared to be the main topic of discussion. His declaration in public that he was severing his connection to the gang. Jim was heard on the tape stating that Tekashi had to be broken, was startling for the streets. In a federal lawsuit, a rap icon known as a Dipset OG was purportedly captured on camera talking about gang business. It was a straightforward assumption. Jim was done if the federal government possessed that audio. However, once the dust settled and the sentences were delivered, an odd event occurred. Tekashi was imprisoned. Harv has decades. Newcomb received years. Jim Jones was left unharmed even when the Mel murder occurred. No charges, no indictment, and no appearance in court. The whispering started at that point, in federal prosecutions. You don't just fade into the background if your voice is heard conspiring against someone in an ongoing RICO prosecution. Lest there's more to the tale, of course. Was Jim safe? Did the federal government turn a blind eye? Or did he have a dual role to play? No one was certain. However, one thing was evident, was not going to go away anytime soon. Soon, the loudest troll in the rap game would ensure its continued existence.
He was your man, like on the side, like on the side, just he was not a rapper at all. Right. So when
Is there anyone in hip-hop who can't help but become involved in drama? 50 cents is the amount. He has been the master instigator for 20 years. 50 has transformed chaos into an art form, from his vicious early altercation with Ja Rule to building whole careers out of making fun of Floyd Mayweather for his inability to read. Therefore, 50 didn't waste any time in adding fuel to the flames when the Jim Jones wiretap rumors began to circulate on blogs and forums. Instagram is his approach. He shared a picture of Jim Jones posing with industry titans Fat Joe, Jay-Z, and Diddy. At first glance, the picture appeared to be another star-studded photo. But the wording really made the difference. This person is calling the shots out here. Lol. Please don't say ish to me since I know you're working. That particular phrase wasn't picked by chance. References to an unidentified individual were found in government documents related to the 9 Trey case. Conspiracy theorists and fans immediately made the connection and thought it was Jim Jones. 50 was aware of the inference. Whether or not that was accurate, it wasn't only playing tricks on Jimmy. He was portraying him in front of millions of followers as an FBI informant. Additionally, 50 doesn't stop at one punch. He went one step further and shared excerpts from the real wiretap transcripts in which HDD's purported voice could be heard demanding that Tekashi be reprimanded. 50 wasn't only trolling when he blasted it out. He was spreading a rumor that would harm someone's reputation in the community for all time. It was amusement for 50. For Jim, that may have been the end of his career, because Snitch is among the worst labels you may ever be associated with in the hip-hop industry. Additionally, it's to remove the stain once it's on you. However, 50 wasn't the only one who continued to spread rumors. The scenario was going to get 10 times messier due to a louder and more careless voice. Wack 100 has made controversy the cornerstone of his brand. Wack, the game's manager, seasoned businessman, and expert pot stirrer, lives in the liminal space between chaos and reality. Additionally, Wack chose to publicly address the Jim Jones rumors on Clubhouse, the audio app that gave rise to several viral feuds as they began to circulate. Wack 100 struck hard. He accused Jim of being a government informant outright. He made a frank argument. All other participants in those wiretaps were charged. The others were sent to jail. How on earth did Jim Jones get away with it? That can only occur if you are collaborating with them, he continued after that. In discussions, podcasts, and interviews with Tekashi 6699 himself, Wack raised the subject. Actually, one of the most infamous government witnesses in hip-hop history, 6699, was employed by him. As a pretext to blame Jim, Tekashi was the only person who understood how informants worked. And giving the accusations more weight was the fact that he sat next to Wack when making the accusation against Jim. The internet took off. Wack's accusations that Jimmy was a snitch went viral on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Thousands of comments flooded in each time. Some admirers took him at face value right away. Others wrote it off as clout chasing. Nevertheless, the harm was done regardless of what individuals believed. The rumor was still going strong. It was becoming louder. Jim was also personally insulted by Wack, who urged him to establish his innocence. He asserted that Jim should make public any documents or declarations to cleanse his name if he was indeed not collaborating with the federal government. The legal system does not operate that way, of course. You are not limited to asking for evidence of what is absent. However, in the eyes of the public, Jimmy appeared suspect just based on the demand. Jimmy, however, was not going to stand by and let his reputation crumble in the absence of a reaction. Jim Jones has always given off the impression that he is a tough cookie. Jimmy has established a reputation for Harlem toughness via decades of rap feuds, gossip on the streets, and business politics. And he didn't shout when these snitch accusations began to take fire. He remained calm. He dismissed it with the swagger of Harlem. His answers were cool, yet incisive. He would share images on social media of himself lounging by the pool with buddies, enjoying cocktails. He shrugged it off in one of the captions. "Why do you keep on lying, lol?" It was a subtly offensive gesture, the kind that conveys the message, "I'm not even taking this seriously." However, there was tension below the laughter. Jim called Wack 100 a liar and a manipulator, and he rejected all of the charges. 50 Cent was described by him as merely an internet troll who thrives on controversy. However, he never responded to the most important question. When he was discovered using those wiretaps, why wasn't he prosecuted? It was deafeningly quiet. Jimmy also answered in his most natural style music. He teased a remix of his Harlem anthem, enlisting big names like Gucci Mane, Dave East Vardo, and Joel Santana, rather than squandering too much time on the internet. It was a statement rather than merely a song. He continued to move with the giants and remind everyone that he was still a member of Harlem aristocracy. He used it to express his untouchability. Nevertheless, the streets remained unsatisfied since the story would persist despite several denials and recordings being dropped. Additionally, historical wounds inside Dipset were renewing, so it wasn't only the feds or the bloggers that were keeping it alive. And things were about to get considerably worse because of the feud between Cameron and Jim Jones. You must examine the movement they established, comprehend why the Dipset drama is so profound. During the early 2000s, Dipset was more than simply a rap group. A cultural revolution took place. The attitude, the lingo, and the fashion. Harlem became the heart of hip-hop swagger because of Dipset. The charismatic leader was Cameron. Jim Jones was the street enforcer who later made a name for himself as an artist, and Joel Santa was the rising star. They functioned like brothers for many years. But behind the scenes, egos, business, and envy. There were simmering disagreements, cracks, eventually developed into complete fractures. Additionally, Cam and Jim's feud has come back to life in dramatic ways. Cam did more than simply make fun of people on his show. He destroyed Jim's reputation. Jim wasn't truly a day one Harlem soldier, he said. When Cam, Mace, Big L, and Bloodshed were constructing the Children of the Corn crew, wasn't present. Rather, Jimmy was portrayed by Cam as more of a sidekick who gradually attached himself. Cam even went so far as to mock Jim for acknowledging that Mace taught him how to rap. That remark struck a deep chord with a man who takes great pleasure. In his street authenticity, Cam blasted Jim for rewriting history when he attempted to claim credit for creating Dipset's style, which included Cam's iconic pink fur coat, was more than simply a rap feud. The conflict was over legacy. Dipset was built by whom? Harlem was born by whom?
Cam.
Who is worthy of receiving the credit? The conflict only became more intense when 50 Cent started firing bullets all the time. For Jim went beyond simply getting his name out of the way. It was about preserving his reputation as one of the most important people in Harlem, and fans couldn't get enough as the tension increased. The streets take over, forums get lively, Twitter threads go viral, and YouTube comments become battlefields whenever a rumor like this gets out of hand. And the responses were harsh in Jim's situation. It was neatly summed up in one statement that went viral. High-ranking gang member Jim Jones told his cousin, who was also a high-ranking gang member, to essentially order a hit. The person he told was caught, but he was not. Something smells bad right now, dude. 6ang's9 told us there were other snitches, but nobody wanted to listen. Another fan commented, "Look who's getting away now." Full-fledged conspiracy theories developed as a result of these remarks. Jim was thought by some to have made a covert agreement with the federal government remain free. Others believed that the government had more important nitwit leaders to convict and didn't want to waste money on a rapper. Without sufficient proof to indict, a smaller fraction said Jim was just fortunate to be at the right place at the right moment. However, reality is perception. Furthermore, being perceived as an informant might ruin a career in hip-hop, where credibility is crucial. The fact that people are still asking about the issue is harmful in and of itself, even in the absence of documentation, proof, or evidence. And the story persisted with each new post from 50 Cent, each tirade from Wack 100, and each dubious remark from Cameron. This is the central theme of the whole narrative. Why did Jim Jones not face charges? On the one hand, he is not officially linked to any partnership. He has never been listed as a cooperative witness on court documents. He didn't give a statement. The government's roster of informants does not include his name. Jim appears to be clean. Conversely, though, the questions persist. They were actual wiretaps. According to reports, his voice was captured on video, declaring that Tekashi had too be raped. Others who were linked to the cassettes suffered greatly. Why not him? Some people think that Jim's prosecution wasn't worth enough to the federal government. He was more of an associate than a gang leader. Others believe that because of his fame, he may have diverted attention from the government's main objective, which was to abolish the nine-tay hierarchy. Then there is the more sinister idea that Jim actually did assist in some covert manner. By offering details that were never made public, since no one has ever been able to explain his freedom, this theory, which lacks supporting data, keeps gaining traction. And for that reason, the rumor will always persist, because conjecture takes control when there are no solutions. Additionally, rumors frequently outweigh the facts in hip-hop. This is where we are now. Jim Jones continues to refute the claims of being a snitch. 50 Cent keeps the narrative going with each trolling post. Cameron is dismantling the Dipset Brotherhood, while Jimmy maintains that he was the architect all along. And Wack 100 is doubling in and challenging Jimmy to prove him wrong. There is a central question that no one can respond to. When everyone else fell, how did Jim Jones escape? Did it happen by chance? Was there insufficient proof? Or was there a darker undertone? The public will never witness such a bargain. The truth might never be revealed. But Jim Jones will always be in the shadow of those rumors as long as 50 continues to trot. Wack continues to speak, and Dipset continues to quarrel. I'll leave it with you now. Was Jimmy untouchable, shielded, or something else? Please share your opinions below so we can know how the streets actually feel about this.